Welcome back, everybody, to the Deep Dive. We're all about digging into the really interesting stuff. And, today we're going to talk about vampires.
Vampires, yeah.
Specifically, we're doing a deep dive on Dracula.
Oh, the OG vampire story. Classic.
Exactly. Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. But we're going to compare it to something.
Ooh, okay. A vampire showdown.
You could call it that.
Yeah.
We're bringing in Nosferatu, that 1922 silent film. You've probably seen images at least, right?
Mm.
The creepy,
Oh, yeah, that's super creepy, gaunt,
yes.
pointy-toothed, like...
Exactly.
Hmm?
So we've got these two landmark vampire tales, and we're going to sink our teeth into the differences.
I love it. So, where do we start?
Well, how about this? Did you know Nosferatu wasn't even supposed to be Dracula?
Oh, yeah, that's right. It was kind of a sneaky move.
Yeah. Nosferatu was an unauthorized adaptation of Stoker's novel.
Yeah, they got into some trouble for that.
It's like the filmmaker, F.W. Murnau, just went, hey, I like that story. I'm going to make a movie.
But they tried to be sneaky, sort of. They changed names and stuff.
Yeah, instead of Count Dracula, we've got Count Orlok. And Transylvania. Out. We're in Germany now.
Right. But, come on. It's pretty obvious, right?
Totally. You can't just swap out Transylvania for Germany and think nobody will notice your vampire story as Dracula.
It didn't really work. Stoker's widow, she sued them.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And the court actually ordered all copies of Nosferatu destroyed.
Oh, no.
I know, right? Luckily, some survived. Imagine if we didn't have that film.
Cinema would be so different. It's considered a classic, especially for horror fans.
Oh, yeah, it's so influential. But, the whole legal battle, it kind of makes you think about how we adapt stories now. Like, what would they do today?
It's so different now with rights and streaming and all that. But okay, back to our vampires. We got to talk about how different they look.
Yeah. They're both vampires, but they're, totally different vibes.
Totally. We've got Dracula, the suave count, dresses well, you know. Then there's Orlok.
Oh, Orlok. He's the opposite of suave. He's creepy and gaunt and...
Rat-like.
Yes. Skeletal almost, with those long claws.
He doesn't have that alluring charm that you sometimes see in vampires.
No, not at all. That difference isn't just about looks. Think about when these stories came out.
Okay, yeah. Dracula was Victorian era, right?
Yeah.
Late 1800s.
Exactly. And those Victorians, they had their own anxieties. Dracula preys on young women, corrupts them.
Right. You see that in a lot of vampire stories, even today.
It reflects a lot of those Victorian worries about, female sexuality and the changing roles of women.
Okay, that makes sense. But Nosferatu, that's 1922, different world.
Totally. Nosferatu comes out after World War I, and you know what else happened around then?
Remind me.
The Spanish flu pandemic.
Oh, right. 1918, that was devastating.
Think about Orlok. He's this walking plague, skeletal rat-like.
Oh, yeah. You see that in the film, The Shadows, the Rats. It's all about this creeping dread.
Exactly. He embodies that invisible threat and the imagery, that German Expressionism. It's perfect for capturing that kind of anxiety.
It's interesting how both stories use the vampire figure, but the fears they represent are so different.
Right. The vampire is a powerful symbol. It can be molded to fit whatever scares people the most at the time. And that goes for the overall tone, too.
Absolutely. Nosferatu, it's all about atmosphere, like you said, this feeling of inevitable doom.
Yeah, it's bleak, man. Those distorted sets, the shadows, it just pulls you into this nightmare.
Whereas Dracula, it's got suspense, but it also feels more adventurous, I guess.
Right. You've got Van Helsing. He's the vampire hunter
Yeah.
leading the charge.
And there's the whole Gothic romance aspect, too. It's a mix of stuff.
Exactly. Ultimately, Dracula is about humans fighting back. They win. It's about good triumphing over evil.
That's a big difference, right? In Nosferatu, you almost feel like humanity's just helpless against this force.
Yeah, it's much darker. But you know what else is interesting? Sunlight.
Oh, right. That's a classic vampire weakness. But it wasn't in Dracula originally, was it?
Nope. That was Murnau's edition.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, he made sunlight fatal for vampires. And that's stuck, hasn't it?
Totally. It's so iconic.
And I think it adds something, the sunlight, it becomes this symbol of life, and it's the ultimate weapon against the undead. Pretty powerful.
That's deep. So we've got these two very different takes on the vampire, and they both had a huge impact.
Oh, yeah. Nosferatu. So influential in horror cinema. All those moody, atmospheric horror films, They owe something to Nosferatu.
Right, and Dracula. He's the blueprint. Countless books, movies, shows. It all goes back to that novel.
I think that's why it's so cool to look at them side by side. Like, you can see how the vampire myth has evolved.
And how it reflects our fears, right?
Yes.
Each generation finds something new to fear in the vampire.
Exactly. It's never just about a monster, it's about what that monster represents.
So as you're watching your next vampire movie or reading your next vampire novel, ask yourself, what's this story really about?
Right. What anxieties is it tapping into?
Because there's always more to it than just fangs and blood.
Yeah.
Keep thinking, keep exploring, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.